Yep.
Oh, good. I saw you on that. Something was a must.
Now, somebody's going to face it with bunking.
Oh.
Got to read again.
Okay, I call the meeting to order. Mr. Mayor, will you please call order?
Ms. Knapp?
Here.
Mr. Rivers?
Here.
Ms. Taranto?
Here. Okay, pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on the agenda, we have agenda changes. Are there any changes from the board? Okay. Are there any changes from the administrator?
Yes, Trustee Knapp, we've asked the removal of item 11A. It's a tabled item for the discussion and possible action regarding the purchase of a Santa Christmas throne. That has been rectified and resolved.
Can we actually keep that on, discuss?
Pardon?
Would it be okay to keep that on the agenda?
Certainly. That's the board's desire.
Which is that item?
No, it won't change anything. It just keeps the agenda as is.
All right.
Would ask the addition under new business, heading 12, item B, the discussion and possible action regarding the establishment of fee for renovation, or excuse me, for revitalization district application.
Okay, anything else?
That would be all, Madam Chair.
And fiscal officer, Mayor, do you have anything to add to the agenda?
Just that I'll be giving you an updated status report.
Okay.
So I think that's covered.
Okay, and do we need to add, Mike, are we going to discuss with you adding the discussion possible action regarding, do we need to discuss the audit?
I don't understand it to have been released yet.
Well, the
Mayor,
contract,
is
the
that-
contract that we have with them.
Oh, the cancellation of the
Yeah.
fee, would that be something that'd be timely for you, Mr. Mayor?
Yep.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea, Ms. Knapp.
And what would you call that then?
I would call that discussing or agreeing to termination of auditing services agreement.
Okay. So we'll put that under this fiscal office report.
Okay.
Okay, and I would like to add an executive session for the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. And then we'll be holding the executive session prior to item 11D, which is discussion of the assistant fiscal officer position. Okay, the next item is public comments regarding items not otherwise on the agenda. Are there any public comments? Okay, next we have approval of minutes. Are there any minutes to approve yet?
There are not.
And then we have a zoning report.
Yes.
Fine.
So next is on Thursday, November 15th, the Board of Zoning Appeals. We will have 5 cases, again, to be discussed on that evening. One is in regards to signage over on the new Pullman Drive commercial building. Second is Life Point Church, the conditional use application for the construction of that church. And lastly, the last 3 applications are in regards to the Friendship gas station convenience store. They are seeking variances for signage and a conditional use as well. In addition, we have a pretty late month, which is nice. Zoning Commission is canceled on both Tuesday, November 13th and Tuesday, November 27th, as we don't have any items on the agenda. And then the last thing I have that is scheduled is Monday, November 19th with the Board of Trustees at 6 o'clock, the comprehensive land use plan update. And, like I said, we're still working on the zoning resolution. My goal is to get the comp plan approved, and then we'll work on the code updates. That's all I have for the zoning report.
Okay.
The next item I have on the agenda is, I just wanted to give you an update on the comprehensive land use plan update. The attachments provided were the motion, the zoning commission's recommendation for the planning orange document. There were several stipulations that were provided, but I am just finishing all the comments now, and I will be sharing you the revised submittal by the end of this week. And then the second item, or second attachment to this is regional plannings. We had them go over this application on their October 25th hearing, and they did recommend approval for the plan update as well. I wanted to share those attachments.
So will we be receiving a new copy of the land use plan?
Mhm.
Okay.
It won't be in that fancy format until we finalize it, but I'll be providing binders of the the new plan.
Okay. When will that be?
I should have it within the next day or two.
I know that's been a long road. Thank you for everything you've done in that regard.
If I can continue on. Yeah. Okay. The next item on the agenda is we are requesting an amendment of the iWorks Public Works Agreement. Just this, it's a very short, minor correction. But the cost all remains the same. It's just when you broke down the cost, there was some number errors into it. So we had the prosecutor's office review this just to confirm that the contract still remains the same as the original one, just with the corrected cost revisions. And we asked the trustees to approve the amended agreement at this point in time. If you have any questions, I'll try to do my best.
So what was amended?
So if you look at the agreement, the fleet management was priced at $1,000 at the time that we approved this. It's actually $3,000, but the total cost never changed. It was just an error in the item once it was itemized.
Is that the only change then?
Mm-hmm.
Are there any questions?
No.
Okay, I make a motion by, whereas the Orange Township Board of Trustees Board previously approved an agreement with iWork Systems and resolution number, it says 309. Is that doesn't seem right. It would be
18 dash something.
18-309.
Yeah.
I believe that's it. I don't have the exact.
You think it might be 18-309? When do you need this to be approved by?
We did get the invoice. I mean, I can find the resolution number to be,
You just want to hold off till?
that's fine.
a little bit later in the
When I'm
meeting?
done with the zoning report, I'll go back with I'll get the corrected resolution number.
When was that approved? Was it in September?
I believe so. Trustee Knapp, if you don't mind waiting, I'll make sure I'll.
It is 18-309.
Oh, it is, okay,
Okay.
It is.
great.
Okay, resolution number 18-309, and whereas that agreement contained an error in the cost section of the agreement, and whereas iWork Q Systems and the board desire to correct that error via an amended agreement, now therefore be resolved by the Board of Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, that Section 1, the board hereby approves the attached amended 2018 to 2019 iWork service agreement with iWork Systems for web-based software pursuant to the terms and conditions found in the agreement and which will replace the prior agreement. Section 2, all formal actions of this board concerning and relating to the passage of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of the board, and all deliberations of this board and of any of its committees that resulted in such formal actions were meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including RC 121.22, Section 3. This resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption. Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And the last thing I have on the agenda is discussion on the toy box application that the trustees recently approved. In the stipulations that you all made indicated a specific height of the building. Well, and the applicant is here to probably touch on that a little more. They went back to their architect and realized that the building is going to be higher than what we approved, just based on structural elements. So they are going to be requesting a minor development amendment change. And we're just trying to figure out what process we should take to go about that. Jack, if you want to.
Good morning, trustees. Jack Reynolds. I'm an attorney with Smith & Hale, and we were in front of you October the 15th, and we were caught without pertinent information that evening. We started this process with a building that was originally 31 feet in height. And so as we went through the planning commission process and with the neighbors, they asked us to improve the look of the building by adding some dormers onto the top of the building to kind of break up the roof structure, more or less. We changed architects in mid-stride, and so we knew that originally we were at 34 feet, and we had always maintained to the boards as well as to the neighbors that the building would be no higher than 35 feet. And so when we were here on the 15th, our architect had not provided us with the information as to what the height would be. And so when Trustee Knapp asked what the height would be, we assumed, and you know what happens when you assume, we were wrong. And so we've now found out that it's anywhere from 34 to 35 feet. The architect has not finished his calculations, but we just want to make sure that you all view that as simply a minor amendment, simply because we're staying below the 35 feet, but we are about a foot, possibly a foot and a half above the 33 feet that we made our representation to you all on the 15th.
So it was originally 31 feet?
Yes.
We asked for the dormers and I added the additional 3 feet?
We had to raise the pitch of the roof a little bit to make the dormers look correct on top of the roof itself. So the structure went up by about 4 feet at that point, a little less than 4 feet, although we did not know that. You know, we had a new architect, and if you look back on the drawings that we provided as a part of the application, it didn't have that height listed as a part of the as a part of the material. We knew that it would be less than 35 feet, but we weren't precise when we were in front of you the 15th.
What did we say on the 15th?
33 feet.
Was that what we said? Okay.
Yes.
So the difference is 1 foot, but you're going to commit?
Yeah, it'll be less than 35. Right now, we're anywhere from 34.2 to 34.6. And so we just, our architect asked to be given until November the 16th or something along that line to get the exact dimension.
Okay.
But we know that it will be less than 35.
So there's no way to make it adhere to the 33 feet that we,
Not with the dormers.
okay.
We would
And
lose
it's
the,
only gonna be about a 6-foot span in the actual middle of the building.
Oh,
So it's
so-
not gonna be the whole
So
building.
not in the back, not the south
it
side?
will be
Just the peak.
peak.
Excuse me, we need your name for the record as you're speaking.
Ryan Mural, 7630 Alton Boulevard.
How do you spell your last name?
MIERAU.
Okay, thanks.
The zoning commission was fine with 35.
Correct.
And the neighbors were too. We had always maintained that we would keep it below 35 feet because that was the height of the single-family house. So we did not want to go over. And everybody else had been comfortable with the fact that we'd go over 35 feet.
But then at the hearing, we approved 33, so the residents are gonna expect it to be 33 possibly. But they might not notice a big difference with just a foot and a half, but I
We
think,
didn't want to push the envelope, we wanted to be open and honest.
oh yeah, that you definitely want to.
Correct.
So are you suggesting an administrative review process on it? So they'll have to file an application for that, and the neighbors will be
Ms.
notified.
Knapp, there really is no administrative review process. The question is whether the board, we have that language in 1406 at the end. I can't remember the subsection, but it says that all drawings, et cetera, will be submitted to the zoning inspector, zoning department, to ensure that they're substantially compliant with. So I guess there are two questions for the board. Unfortunately, procedurally, we were setting rules that night, so I would suggest either A, if Ms. Bonnie would be comfortable with it, and the board, and she had the support of the board, that the difference might be regarded as still being substantially compliant with the wisdom that down the road, Mr. Reynolds will remember this in the future. Secondly, the other course would be to go through just the text amendment of the application, which would involve a filing by Mr. Reynolds, reference to regional planning, hearing by the zoning commission recommendation to the board. The only change would be 33 to 35 feet. So,
Isn't there a process that,
no, that process, my understanding is the board abandoned that process. I think in many applications it's illegal. I thought that for some
is
time.
that still in the zoning resolution?
Yeah, it's coming out in the draft that Ms. Bonnie and I are preparing. That was a
But it's
request of
currently-
at least one trustee.
Oh, yeah, I want it gone, but is it still in there?
I would not recommend it be used. I think it's a dubious legality.
Okay, but is this I mean, is there a process?
Well, it's a
that-
foot out of 35 feet. That'd make it, what, less than 0.3%?
Well, it's 1.2 to 1.6 feet difference,
1 second.
right, Jack?
Yes.
I mean, is there a procedure where we can even determine that?
I think, yes, you could go through an amendment to the text, but like I said, that'll require an application, so
But
it's totally up to the board.
But is there an alternative for us to approve? I don't know what
There is not.
there's nothing,
No,
I don't know what we
To
can
answer
do.
your question, no, I'm afraid not. Yeah, it'd be 0.03% of the 35 feet. So, again, I leave it to the board, but I think those are the only two courses I
You
can
mean
see.
0.3%, 3%?
Point.
Well, it'd be,
I wouldn't-
1 foot would be a third, might be 3%.
It's 3, not 0.3, it's 3%.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Times it by 100.
That's why I went to law school. Yeah, 3%.
It says 3%, but it's still, it could be, I mean,
I guess there
Michelle.
could be an application made to BZA, but they'd have to find special circumstances.
But can Michelle even make that determination?
Well, again, in the
And that's in
past,
her
if
discretion.
roads are well, it's in her discretion, but the board does sign the check. You know, I think the real question is with board members object. I think there's going to be an objection. I deal with it head on. Again, either take it to the BZA, and I don't know what special condition they find on a flat site. It might be tough right
Yeah.
now in the BZA. So you'd be looking at just going through a refiling and bing, bang, boom, 33 becomes 35. We'd get an amendment back here in about 6-7 weeks.
Well, what about the technique when Trustee Carno accidentally had the executive session during the Evans Farm, and then we were able to modify the approval later on? Do you remember we
I
reopened
was
that?
involved in that.
Somehow we reopened that resolution
If
and
the-
modified it.
I did do some research on that. I'll tell you what I found, and we might as well deal with it head on. Lead case seemed to be one involving the city of Marine, the Ohio Supreme Court, and I think Ms. Bonnie gave you a copy of that. Now, 1 second, I'll read exactly the note that would be applicable here.
Ms. Bonnie, do you think that it's in substantial compliance?
I think, it is a very minor correction on the resolution. It's because we were so specific in the resolution, which is the reason why I wanted the trustees to be informed on that. Typically, we don't have a specific height requirement, or, we don't indicate that in the motion itself. But because we did, we have to.
Oh, yeah.
I would leave it to the board to construe this language. Note, I think that's most applicable would be, well, it says Supreme Court held that, the pertinent part said, the Supreme Court held that the Board of County Commissioners had authority to reconsider its legislative activity, which this would be rulemaking, in amending comprehensive zoning plans since there was no change or modification from original proposal. So we had a number of stipulations that night. I would say that language is either going to interpret two. If you voted yes on the same question at the prior meeting, you change your vote to no. And it does not seem to indicate you changed the proposal.
What is the original proposal defined as?
Well, it really is not. It says from the original proposal.
Could it be the proposal they first submitted that was 35 feet?
Well, the question gets to be, what is the proposal originally? Is it the question presented to the board at the time of the vote, or is it the referral to the board by the zoning commission? You know, I really could see nothing on that, one way or the other.
Right, because that, do you remember the Evans Farm was
Well,
somehow
I think
opened
you raise a
up?
good point.
It was opened up,
I think you raise a good
and I didn't
point.
think it
That
was
might
legal.
serve as a precedent. I'd say if we're going to go that route, let's dig out the original resolution and change 33 to 35 and vote the whole thing.
Yeah, I think
Because you had a number of things, probably most notably the payment, installation, responsibility for the sidewalk. That might be substantial sums to the public otherwise. You had a number of other stipulations, all of which were agreed
All
to
of
by
them
the
agreed to, I mean.
So maybe if we could table that for a little bit, we'll go dig out the prior.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, because that was
number.
modified. Somehow
Well,
it was
like you
reopened,
said,
but
it
months
was
later.
certainly done in the case of Polaris, Evans, not Polaris. But.
We reopened the.
It has become a question, what is that proposal?
We reopened the hearing because there was a mistake made
Yeah.
on the whole Evans Farm and then modified something. So that,
Okay.
if we'd done it before, even though I didn't think that was legal, but if we have done it before, maybe Mike could find out that it is legal, we could just change it like
Okay.
that. But I'd probably want to,
Do we-
want them maybe notify the property owners it's going on, that would make me feel better.
Why don't we do that, give me a little time to
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
back and.
how soon do you need to know?
Just your next meeting would be fine.
We can even, if you just want to put it, let's put it on the next meeting and Mike can do some research
Yeah.
and we can try to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll talk to Mike.
I'll dive further into it. I did spend about an hour all told. I could get nowhere on defining that term.
Okay.
I'm sure
Yeah,
that,
otherwise
that would
we
be
would have to
fine.
go through the entire process all over again. in one
Does
meeting.
are we time constrained, that, do we have to do it within the referendum period or the effective period, excuse me?
I was wondering that, but I don't think, when you approved John?
15.
15th.
It'd be
So
too
that would be
late.
the 19th is our next meeting.
I would say just out of an abundance
We
of
have a
caution,
special
my
meeting,
gut
yeah.
reaction is if the board would entertain it, I can get the information, work with Jack and Michelle, maybe just schedule a quick special.
We could do that.
I would do
I
it in
think,
front of, yeah, I know the board's not crazy about specials. But my guess just telling me someone's going to be looking for a deadline somewhere.
yeah, I think with the Evans Farm, I'm not for sure, but I think that was.
And
over
to
the
do it
30-day
after
period
referendum is
somehow. I think it was
expired.
2 months later, so
And
let's just have
some
Mike,
denial due process possible.
Mike,
Yeah,
check
we'll
on
be-
it, and then we'll
You
figure
tell us to
something
be
out.
back up here before the 19th and we'll
Yeah.
show up.
Yeah, I don't think that, I'm not sure what applies, but,
No, that's a good point, Ms. Now.
yeah, just checking it out. Okay, so we'll just figure that out soon.
Let us know when we'll be here. Thank you, folks, for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have maintenance report.
Yeah, that would fall to me. The first item for consideration and discussion is the Shores Homeowners Association, and we have Mr. Max Evans in the audience. Came before me as a representative of the Homeowners Association to speak about adding some trees. Actually, specifically, it's 3 trees to 2 cul-de-sac areas within their subdivision of Shores. I shared with the board the pictures of those and what they look like. They are deciduous trees, they're nice trees, and I'm sure they'll be well taken care of. I shared this information with the county engineer's office, and they saw no concern with it. I bring this to the board because the board has control of those cul-de-sac areas and can determine if and what can be placed there. The consideration to the homeowners association or to the board, to the township for the homeowners approval to move forward would be they would plant, purchase, water, trim, maintain, and replace the trees as necessary. And I formulated a motion in the template, but I would ask the board, if you wish to move forward, that there'd be an addition to that. Oh, never mind, I guess Mr. McCarthy formulated a resolution unknown to me about this.
I should indicate, to be ready to indicate to the board my suggestions in the matter. This is one suggestion.
Okay,
I would suggest some discussion.
okay. Well, then, Mr. McCarthy, why don't you just take it over?
Well, no, I'm not trying to do that.
No, I'm finished with what I have to say.
Okay, well.
You can certainly take it
We've
over.
had these issues before. Some of you may remember Nicoya. We had a go around on that about 3 years ago. In the past, the board has dealt with this relatively informally, sometimes leaving no record of any understanding or agreement. In this case, you're being asked, I did check on the county auditor's website. These areas are listed as right-of-way. They're not separately deeded parcels, which exist in some areas of the township, actually, not here. That, as Lee said then, this would then fall to be board discretion. Your liability as things stand right now under Chapter 2744 is the travel portions of the roadway. I believe, are these islands, I don't believe there's a curb. These are just asphalt and dirt, right?
What was that?
There's no curb around the island?
No, they're not.
So, you know, you have no particular demarcation, but obviously it's not the travel portion of the roadway, or the current trees wouldn't be there anymore.
Did you say we do own the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, usually.
Okay.
It's township right away.
And do we currently mow it?
I have no idea what the current maintenance practices are.
What was the question?
Does the township currently mow the cul-de-sacs?
And can you give your name and address, please, for the
Max
record?
Evans with the Shores HOA. No, the cul-de-sac is mowed by the HOA. We take care of the entrances and those 3 cul-de-sacs. The one cul-de-sac was already zoned for trees years ago, and they were all built in 1992 and 93. So the actual board took them all out, so we're just trying to replace those.
It's just for 2 cul-de-sacs,
two
the
now.
other one's already
Yeah,
has the
it's
trees
fine,
in it? Okay. And do you know how high the trees would grow? What kind of? plant
The
are-
estimates I looked at and what I sent to Mr. Wood there were 30 feet tall, something like that.
What specific types of trees are you looking at?
Primarily red maple, and maybe you want to do 2 red maples and a single different type tree, like a linden, like a linden tree, or something like that. or
Tilly.
something like that. We're looking at something with 30-foot spread and the height maybe 30, 40,
Okay.
Is that a slow growing tree?
Pretty much the maples are pretty slow growing, yeah. We'd like to have something faster, but
But that would be better in the long run.
yeah.
It's sturdier. So you would have how many trees, did you say?
Three new ones in each cul-de-sac. That's what we have in the Storm Haven, which was already established there.
And then would there be any bushes, no bushes or anything around?
We have
it?
bushes in there now that were approved, but I think they're more problem taken care of than talking with Green Lawn or our maintenance people. They would rather just put grass in underneath there. We do have some low-growing evergreens right there in the center, and there's a big stone in the middle of one of these. And
So you might take those out?
we might take the evergreens out just to be grass, to be simpler to maintain rather than mulch and all that, so.
But you wouldn't add any more bushes in there?
No.
Because, okay, so either just the trees or the trees and the existing bushes?
Right.
The, as I was saying, 2744, the travel portion of the roadway, I would not think this would be found to be that. So that liability is probably non-existent. You may have some liability in an attractive nuisance theory, but we've done these things forever. The boards typically permit us indicated Storm Haven Court. Nicoya in the end, if I recall, the board allowed that. Nothing's registered to date. It's trimmed up properly. I think that's probably something for the board to consider.
And you would water the trees and
Yeah, we
get
would
water care?
initially, and eventually they wouldn't need any maintenance or anything, water particularly.
I'm sure Mr. McCarthy added that to the resolution.
I actually incorporated the letter and the exhibit that was tendered with the letter into the
good.
resolution and for insertion into the minutes.
Next time, I wish you would share with me your diligence so that I don't have to spend my time on it.
It was a weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
So, I think I'm fine with it. Michelle, do you have any objections to it?
I do not know.
Any other trustees have any questions? No? Actually, aren't very many grassy cul-de-sacs in the township at all.
No, there were only 3 there, and those were.
They look really nice when they're taken care of, they look really nice, so. I said they look really nice when they're taken care of,
Yeah.
the trees, so.
Problem with that.
It'll beautify
It
it.
was very good when we had trees.
Yeah, they are.
I'm glad to hear it's the red table, it'll be very nice.
Yeah, those are one of my favorite trees. So is, the resolution that's in the template, that was?
That was just a simple motion.
Okay, well, thank you for your effort, though, Mr.
Oh,
Weaver.
thank you. My pleasure.
Let's see, I make a motion to adopt the following resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, agrees to the purchase, planting, trimming, maintenance, and replacement of trees by the Shores Homeowners Association in the cul-de-sac island areas of Driftwood Court and Bar Harbor Court. Be it further resolved that such purchase, planting, trimming, maintenance, and replacement of trees in the Shores Homeowners Association shall be in accordance with the correspondence dated October 25th, 2018, and its accompanying drawing, both received by the board from Max Evans, Vice President of the Shores Homeowners Association, and copies of which are attached to this resolution as Exhibit A. Be it further resolved that if the islands and tree area are not maintained in a condition satisfactory to the board, or if it is otherwise deemed appropriate by it, the board will exercise its authority and deal with the islands and trees in any manner it deems fit.
Second?
Yes, Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Ms. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
So if there was an issue where it wasn't being maintained, or there was a problem, we would contact you guys first, and we wouldn't just go in there and take everything out, but we would talk to you about any issues that come up, but I'm sure there won't be any.
Fair enough.
All right, thank you. Okay, next we have, park report?
Yes, that would fall under me too, and unless somebody else is doing my stuff for me there too. Under the North Road Park project, 2 things. The board asked that that be included in this meeting in case there was any further discussion from our special meeting. And as you have, as you have in your packet, I supplied a proposal by RPO for consideration of their labors in this regard. I've crafted a very simple motion if the board wishes to engage the services of RPO, who has been involved, or whom have been involved in the first phase of this project. I'm sure the board has reviewed the proposal prior to today's meeting and has seen all the task items and scope of services that have been brought forward. And at this time, I would suggest, or I would request, the board's consideration of approval.
After getting all the information from the special meeting and reviewing where this originally started at, I think that the area obviously has changed a lot as far as when this was put together and with the development of what is going there now. When you look at Evans Farm, potential Y, there's a lot of opportunity there to partner with these other developments. I'd like to see us come up with a comprehensive plan that includes everything that's going to be there. And you're looking at a massive compound there, of fields, and the potential Y. So for me, until we hire the new parks director, we get the Y, we get some of this other stuff settled, I think it'd be wise to pause for the moment. On phase 2, obviously we'll proceed, and we want the fields to be ready here. I would say though with the fields, as far as opening of it, as far as looking at the time frame, I think it'd be wise to be mindful of the construction and the development on Lewis Center Road and North Road. The county is going to be doing around the same time frame as well to open up the new soccer fields right when we have that construction going. I think we need to work with the county and make sure that we don't get ourselves into a situation where everything happens at the same time, and we're looking at a potential there where you get construction and traffic issues.
Mr. Bodnar, additionally, I believe, is this the project where you previously brought to the board that there will need to be an RFP issued for the design professional services?
No.
It's not?
Correct.
Okay, very good.
So, Lee, when are the soccer fields? The soccer fields are supposed to open anytime from March to July, is that what we discussed?
Upon the approval of the contractor, because they're under warranty, wanted to make sure it went over, and there was, my recollection, and Mr. Overturf can back it up, from our last meeting, or our special meeting, was that it would be after winter at some point.
Okay, and we're planning to put a playground in there, correct?
That was what was presented, yes.
And then, was there any time frame on that or design available?
No, I think that was actually after the amenities of Phase 2. I don't believe the playground was included in Phase 2.
So there was going to be a Phase 3?
Up to the possibility of a Phase 3 if the board wished to move forward with that.
I think they were looking at the possibility of putting an alternate in there too, to get a price range for what.
Mr. Overdorf, can you please come to the podium and give your name and address?
Scott Overturf, RTO LLC, 3620 North High Street. I believe that the playground was a thought process that we could go out during the course of doing Phase 2. We could get an alternate price about installation or an alternate price getting set up and putting in a bid price or a contingency in for something like that. We needed input, is my understanding. Now, I don't know very much about it, but other than that, we wanted input from the community about what type that they wanted and what would best fit there. I believe that Corda looked at this, and both Myers and Associates looked at this, and they have some idea because of the parameters of the size to work this. So we're going to do it kind of in conjunction, so it's not really where we have to go and then we got to wait. Once we have a feel for the construction timeframes, we could look like that. It also gives you the option, if Phase 2 comes over the budget, then you might think of Phase 3 for like cost-wise and stuff like that. That would be a thought process. But
What is the cost of the playground?
I don't know. They range, $75,000 to $150,000, depending upon what they want, the items that they want, and how they're going to put it in, the kind of service. But there's a breakdown. I'll find the breakdown once I get back into the project that the architect will go off.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what?
I'll find out what they believe or projected it might be.
For the cost?
Yeah, because they would have to theoretically design around the size, and if they design around the size, then they get the cost estimate off of it.
Okay.
It's probably in documents somewhere. The other thing, we talked about the fields themselves, and that's really predicated about the weather conditions and stuff like that. We have a pretty good feel right now, and going out to the grass, and it's holding pretty well. We had that much rainstorm. So that would help somewhat. The construction end of it, though, would be towards the end of the summer, July and August area, right in there.
Construction of Phase 2?
Phase 2, yeah. But if you do in relationship with the county was talking about, they're doing the road first, and then they're going to go do the cul-de-sac. Well, that would fit in pretty well for ourselves, because the heavy concentration of chair will be during the first phase when we're working on the ground. And we asked the question at the special meeting, and they said that they would work with us to be able to bring in all the equipment we needed in the back too. So our plan is to, as they're working, to get done with that. And then we'll see what the opening would be too, what's best for the township.
Okay, and the trail is done, correct? Is the
All
trail-
but the last end of where the part close to the maintenance there.
And that's gonna be done.
And the final, but yeah, during phase two. It'll be done. And that's in relationship to the measurement of it too, because we're gonna make it exactly a mile. So
Okay.
we'll see how that goes.
All right, thanks.
Okay?
Thank you. I would like to also hold off until we get our new maintenance and parks director, because I want that person to come in and take a look at the project and see any kind of changes that need to be made, or I want them to take a look at that maintenance building, which I had no idea it was gonna have offices and things, and I would think we would want a centralized area for all of our maintenance staff, not equipment, but having some people work out of there, and some people work out of here, and some people work out of the fire station. You know, I really think we need to look at something more centralized, or that expansion that we discussed here at Township Hall. So I would like to hold off for a bit, but the soccer fields will be open in the spring, which is what everybody was really wanting. So that, I think that's our most important thing. But I would like to hold off for a few weeks or a month or so until we get the new person hired.
Because I don't understand the relationship to the YMCA. Why hold it off because of the YMCA? That's unrelated to the township. It's membership based. Our residents voted for the parks levy and have indicated throughout all surveys and feedback that they want this. And the Y is fundraiser to build that. So we're talking it could be years off. So I guess I'm not understanding the relationship, the Y to finishing this park.
Well, there's the potential of what's going on in Evans with the sports complex, the Y, and the North Road Park. So you have the three of them, not just the potential Y, which would include additional fields, a possibility of everything that would come with the sports complex that would all tie together. So I think if we're going to spend over $1.5 million on something, we want to be 100% sure that we're doing the right thing. We're talking to all the other parties involved in the area. There's continuity, there's partnership, and it all makes sense. So for me to wait 2 or 4 more weeks, I think it's well worth the wait.
Trustee Charlie, you said that surveys indicate that the residents want this park, so they want the soccer field.
Yes, they do.
So do they want the concession stand?
It's just all part of the park that we all approved.
We may want to get some porta potties up there during the course of
That's what
utilization.
you're always,
Right, we need the restrooms, but I'm not actually sure what a good concession stand would do that. There's only 5 soccer fields. I think
there's
that.
10, they're split.
Well, there's 5
All
full-size.
all part of the plan was the tournaments that were going to be there. And
Why would we want tournaments there?
because this was part of the research that our Parks Board did on what people were looking for.
Do you have a copy of that survey?
I think these are all very good questions. and that goes to my
Excuse
point.
me. So do you have a copy of the survey that indicates that people want a concession stand and have tournaments? Because I couldn't find that.
When you build a park like that and you have tournaments, it's kind of a given. You have bathrooms, you have a
So there's only
concession.
5, that 5 full-size soccer fields, that's not enough for a tournament, number one. Number two, the residents I've spoken with have said that they would like to use those soccer fields for their own teams. They don't want to have tournaments and have other teams taking up those areas. We have very few areas in the township for soccer fields as it is, and having other entities come in. If you go up to Dublin and see the massive side they're there, but other facilities for soccer tournaments are vastly larger, and we won't have the parking or the space, and it would be taken away from our residents. So I did a lot of research. I found absolutely not one case with a single survey that indicated people wanted to have tournaments or concession stands. And from what I've talked to residents, they don't really want that. So I would be interested in getting research on that. And what I do know is that residents want playgrounds and they want a shelter and playgrounds For a $450,000 maintenance building that will have showers and for staff and an office. I think that's a tremendous waste right now. I'd like to see a centralized hub, which is why our director can help determine what kind of needs we have there. But I am in favor of restrooms and a shelter and a nice playground, but I don't think there's a need for the concession stand or for tournaments at that location. So if you have research that proves otherwise, I would love to see it. So do you want to table this to
The next meeting, or?
next meeting or yeah?
Okay, we can table it at the next meeting. I would like to
Then
share
we go
that
to that meeting.
at the next meeting, would like the board to entertain the possibility of some easements that were brought up
Yes.
during the special meeting, two of them primarily, one from Delco Water and the other from Evans Farm for sanitary purposes. Those will be on the agenda, so that could accompany this as well.
Why don't we do that? I'm not
Okay.
sure if I'm going to be ready for the final discussions, but.
I think we need the parks director in place because that's what we're discussing. is
Yeah, exactly.
Their input. So-
Exactly, and that could take another 6 weeks
Sure.
or so.
Well, then if it's
We'll
okay.
just have a brief discussion with
Brief
easements.
discussion on that, and then we can discern from that at the next meeting. Sounds
Can I
good?
ask one question? please?
Sure.
In other words, we'll put it on hold and we're not going to go forward with the bidding of the project.
Not at this time, yeah.
Okay, not this time. Okay, so we should stop what we're doing.
What are you in the process of doing?
Well, from our last meeting, I was going forward with all the bidding things to get the last, 40% complete so we could bid in a month and have the bids out there in December so we could start.
Yeah, just hold off on all that then.
Okay, so that's just, we'll stop that then. Tom.
Yes.
You guys-
Well, will that affect phase 1 at all?
Oh, not phase one will be complete.
Okay.
That'll be done. It's actually done this week if the sun's out.
Okay, good.
But phase two then would be a delay on any construction. It won't affect the fields themselves, but on any construction, it might delay that because you got long-term material that needs to be bought. And shipping from Florida that matches our shelters and things.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm all in favor of developing that park, but I want to do it responsibly, and I want to have more resident input. I would like to have a playground, and I would like to spend money on a nice shelter and a playground, but I'm not quite sure about the other things, which is why we need the new director in.
Madam Chair,
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
if I can make a point. As this is being reviewed, I would like to see some research done on how we're going to maintain it, how we're going to pay for it, what it's going to look like. I haven't seen anything like that yet, so.
Yeah,
Can
that's
that
a
be
good point.
included?
Yeah, the new director could hopefully
Exactly.
provide. Is that something, Lee, that we would have the new director look into, or something you can, or should we wait?
Unfortunately, I don't know that I could pair off into that in the timeframe that you require, but I would say that a new director, that would be common.
Something they would do, yeah.
Also
Yeah,
find
common.
within the appropriations, money appropriated for this park from the parks, I think.
Right.
Yes.
Well, since appropriations are coming up, I just want to make sure maintenance is included in that.
Yes, sir, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have the public safety report.
I can go ahead and cover that since Chief Merkel isn't here. We had a resignation from a part-time firefighter, Corey Conrad. He got hired on full-time at Newark, so he put in his resignation.
Okay. I make a motion to regretfully accept the resignation of Corey Conrad as part-time firefighter EMT effective October 30th, 2018.
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
And I just want to make a note, as liaison to fire, last Tuesday, I believe it was during the business appreciation, we had interviews for future lieutenants, and we interviewed, I believe it was 6, and it was really great to get to know the gentlemen that were applying for these leadership positions and how important it is to them, and it's a benefit, I think, to the fire department and to the township to have these potential upgrades to their roles and it's encouraging to them, and it was a great thing to be a part of and to get to know firefighters a little bit better.
So when would that one, would it be hired?
So as lieutenant positions, they move up to captain or they retire. These interviews, the people that made it as far as their scores go, they would be in position already to fulfill that role.
Oh, so it's very exciting.
Chief Noble would have a list together, and then, as Trustee Trona had stated, if somebody retires or moves on, we wouldn't need to go through the process. We could just already take the list, first, second, or third, and, move them right into that slot. It would already be, all of that background would be taken care of, so we could move the firefighters into those higher officer positions.
And how long is that effective, once they are qualified?
The list, I would have to check. Typically, it's a year or two. We just have to wait.
Okay, so not longer than that, right?
Yeah, he would be able to answer that directly. He's at training this week, but that's something I could find out and get back to you on.
Yeah. Okay, next we have fiscal officer report.
Yep. First thing, there's a supplemental appropriations motion, or resolution. I'm going to ask Amanda if she would cover that for us.
So during the transition of the fiscal office, there was some bills that were paid that were either paid out of the wrong account and coded incorrectly. So as a result, we had to move some money around to finish paying for the winter newsletter postage. And we had to correct some accounts that were previously paid. So we're asking for some money to come out of the contingency funds to pay for future, the winter postage, and then correct a prior postage invoice that was already paid. So it's all paid out of the correct account.
And this isn't rewriting any checks or anything. This is just moving money internally.
Correct. Correct. No moving of checks. So there are two invoices. One we're correcting, and that would just be moving money. The second one, once it is approved, then that would be a check for the future that we will be paying for the fall, or excuse me, the winter newsletter that is getting ready to be wrapped up. We pay postage ahead of time, and then once the newsletter is completed and all the content is done and the newsletter sent out, then the actual hours or printing is then paid for then. So,
Okay. So it's just correcting the account?
yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any questions? I make a motion to authorize a supplemental appropriation from account code 1000930930000 contingencies to account code 100011034200000 postage in the amount of $5,197.66 for postage.
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes. And Wes, I appreciate that you put the, actually what the name of the account is and after the account number. That's really very helpful.
Okay. I'd like to get credit for that, but I didn't do it, so.
Oh, was it? It was a patty.
It was
That's a good
nice.
idea, because then the accounts are kind of anonymous unless you have a name with them. Did I read the second resolution?
No, we still have the second, the PO to approve.
Motion, I make a motion to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Base Printing in the amount of $5,197.66 for postage.
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
And just for the board's edification, I believe Ms. Sheetram put together these requests to the board.
Did you put the account number? That's very helpful.
Thanks.
We haven't had that before.
Not that somebody else wouldn't have done the same thing, but I just wanted to make sure that the board knew where that came from.
That's helpful.
The next item, I was thinking of passing down a resolution there. Okay. This is regarding the acknowledgement of the termination of the agreement with Perry Associates. When a new fiscal officer comes on board, it's typical that they request and receive some sort of a exit audit or a clean slate audit, and in talking with the state auditor, and we found that the finances here have only been reconciled through April. The state auditor said that what they'd like to do is to do the audit themselves for the year 2018, and that will serve the purpose of a clean slate audit. To do that, though, we currently have an agreement with Perry Associates to do our biennial audits. And what we're going to do is, or what the state auditor recommended was that we change that so that Perry Associates would do the biennial audit for 2019 and 2020. The state would do the audit for 2018. So they said that we needed a resolution from the board acknowledging the termination of that agreement.
Okay. So when will the state come in? The time frame for next year?
Immediately, well, as soon as possible after the end of the year. They indicated, after the books are closed.
Okay, so February.
It'll be in the first quarter.
Okay. Anything else on that? Is that all on that?
That's all on that. They just said formalities to make sure the board approves the resolution acknowledging that it's changing the agreement they have with Perry.
Okay.
And Ms. Knapp, I would just highlight to the board, this is only as to future auditing services, the contract's being canceled going forward. As to the current services that are being finalized, the contract is to remain effective as to those services.
Okay, make a motion, whereas the auditor of state Orange Township entered into a memorandum of agreement with Perry Associates CPAs AC as of the 25th day of July 2014 for the performance of audit services, and whereas the auditor of state in Orange Township entered into an extension agreement with Perry Associates CPAs AC extending the term of the memorandum of agreement for the period of January 1st, 2016 to December 31st, 2019. And whereas the auditor of state has indicated its desire to assume the future auditing of Orange Township and for the remaining balance of the extension, and for such reason has terminated the services of Perry and Associates CPAs AC as regards to such future auditing, and whereas Perry and Associates CPAs AC has indicated its agreement to such termination, be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio acknowledges the termination of the services of Perry and Associates CPA AC by the Auditor of State as to those services being assumed by that office, with the understanding that such termination is only as to those services with the extension agreement and related memorandum of agreement otherwise continuing to be effective according to their terms.
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Mr. Anto?
I just have one question. So, so are you saying the auditor has now extended, they've signed a new agreement with Perry for 18, or for?
They haven't yet. They indicated they may have to do an RFP for that. Yeah, but that's up to the auditor.
Okay, so Perry, they plan to probably have Perry do the following 2 years, but they haven't signed that agreement yet or figured it out.
Correct. That's the plan from the auditor of state.
Okay.
And Perry Associates is on board.
Okay.
The next item we have is.
Did you call roll on that one? Did you don't have? Did you call roll?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. There's the concern.
Okay, I'm going to, these were just recently completed. I'd like to, Debbie, if you would take one of these again. At the October 1st board meeting, I made a report to the board and to the residents of the township on the status of the fiscal office since I became fiscal officer in the middle of September. So I'd like to, as I did then, I'd like to read this report so it's on the record. On October 1st, 2018, an initial status report was furnished to the Board of Trustees by the fiscal officer. Since that time, this office has become current on entering all revenue and expenses into the UAN system. Monthly reconciliations which had not been completed, I guess, since April 30th are now complete through August. September financials are expected to be reconciled within a few days. This will allow us to provide reliable financial information to officials and department heads through the third quarter. Also, the trustees have been provided with view-only access to the entire UAN system for Orange Township finances. They are now able to see anything and everything, create reports, and even We are current on the payment of all invoices of which we are aware. We are also current on issuing receipts for funds received. After discussions with the state auditor, we have modified the procedure slightly to simplify and streamline the process of reconciling credit card bills with the receipts. The most important change is that the card user must be the one who reconciles the charges on the statement with the receipts he or she has. The reconciled statements must be returned to the fiscal office in a time frame that allows the bills to be paid on time without incurring late charges or fees. As an aside, I've discussed this with our attorney, and he's working on the credit card policy, and it's our intention to ask that these new procedures be included in that policy. We will continue to appropriately deal with any additional items or issues that may continue to arise. Following is a list of some additional findings since the last fiscal office status report to the trustees on October 1st. Many documents required for the reconciliation process were non-existent, misplaced, or missing. We continue to be made aware of outstanding unpaid invoices. For example, we recently became aware that the township owes the Pepsi-Cola distributor more than $5,000 for soda that was supplied to the cool concession stand over the summer. The causes included ineffective procedures combined with a lack of appropriate oversight. Pool receipt documentation was either not created or missing, meaning there is no good way to reconcile the deposits with the backup documents. Point and pay online revenues in July and August were not recorded. Lockbox deposits for EMS charges for March and April had not been recorded, even though those months have been reconciled. In addition, lockbox deposits since April had not been recorded. Government revenues, for example, real estate taxes and rollbacks, had not been entered since April. Payments have been made directly out of the contingency fund, and as a side, if contingency funds are to be used, they must first be transferred to the correct account from which the payment is made. Payroll had not been entered since August 1st. In addition, May 11th payroll was incorrect, June 22nd payroll was incorrect, July 6th payroll was incorrect. The OP&F pension contribution for July was incorrect. Multiple purchase orders were unable to be processed. Some have not been able to be processed because there are no funds available in the appropriate accounts. In some cases, certain expenses were coded to the wrong accounts, therefore leaving no money in those accounts for the legitimate purchases for those accounts. A department head has been waiting on a purchase order that he believed had been approved. However, we could not process it because we were unaware of it and cannot locate the documentation. Other potential findings continue to be researched to better understand them and their impact on the township. We will, of course, keep the board appropriately apprised. It should be noted that because of the failure of the previous fiscal officer to reconcile the monthly financials in a timely manner, we've been unable to provide our trustees or department heads with the reliable financial information that is required for them to manage their 2018 expenses and for 2019 appropriations planning. Dealing with the massive task of catching up has been our highest priority for the past 6 weeks. I'm pleased to report that we are nearly there.
Thank you very much. Sounds like things were really a mess, so thank you for trying to clean everything up.
I do request that this be attached to the
And so I'm assuming that all these items will be examined in the next audit, in the 2018 audit, to be done with the state auditor.
Absolutely. The state auditor has already received the first report, and also receiving this report before they do. And I plan to do another report in December, and until we feel we're in a position where everything has been returned to a normal situation.
Okay, thank you very much.
How are we doing time-wise on appropriations as far as catching up? And
I'm sorry?
how are we doing time-wise on appropriations for 2019?
Well, within a few days, we'll have there is information available. However, we can't say you can rely on it. So the fund balances are probably very, very close, but we can't guarantee, they haven't been reconciled.
You can't do that until the reconciliations are complete.
Right, and we think through September we'll be finished within a few days. And once that's done, then all the department heads will have at least 3/4 of information to work with. And it'll allow them, and by the way, we can't do October immediately, but it will be done as soon as September is finished. So the more information they have, the better they can. I mean, right now, some of them are in a position where they don't know what they spent totally this year yet, but probably by the end of this week, they will.
Yeah, it's very hard to tell what we have spent and what accounts come from, and it's just
That's another issue I should bring up. In talking with the auditors, there were a lot of miscodings of expenses, and the auditors have said that because of the number of them, it may be difficult to really go through and make all the changes. But they did recommend that for certain larger items that we should make some changes. So,
okay, yeah. Because it's hard to tell what you have in an account, what you've already spent or budgeted if someone didn't do any of the reconciliations or in the past. So it's been a hard year. So thank you for all your work.
If I could interject, Madam Chair, I have met with the 3 department heads, and we have reviewed their appropriations and requests for 2019, and they seem to be in good line with this current budget. So when everything is ready to pull the trigger to meet with the board to discuss the finances for next year, 2019, the departments are all in the ready to address those.
Okay, great.
I think, thank you, Mr. Bodnar. I think one of the biggest areas of concern is the fire department because of the size of their appropriations, and it is, I mean, if I were in their shoes, I wouldn't want to go forward and finalize anything until I had numbers I could fill in.
That's a huge budget for the fire department. Okay, next we have the administrative report.
Yes, I had very, if you'll excuse me for a brief moment, this is I'm going to close the door. This is the voting machine for tomorrow. How you doing, guys? Thank you. Just in the hallway, if you would. Thank you so much. Thank you. If the board remembers, the volunteers from the Board of Elections will be here this evening. They'll set up the room for voting tomorrow. But as the board chose to move to morning meetings for the first meeting, that negated the need for us to move and meet in the Thompson room, as has been the practice in the past. Okay, to the administrative report. The only thing I have to bring to the board is the lease agreement with the County Board of Commissioners. At the October 1st meeting, the board approved and submitted the lease agreement for the EMA facilities located in the area of Lewis Center. I believe it's on 3rd Street. And that was sent to the county immediately following the approval of the Board of Trustees. The county returned a new lease agreement to the township for consideration and made a change. They reduced the number of paramedics in the required for a county squad. So they reduced it to call out one paramedic will be on the squad, on the county squad. Oh no, they reduced it by one. I'm sorry, there were 3, and it went down to 2. This was shared with the fire chief, and Chief Noble had no comment to make or any suggestions. So I have a lease agreement that has been signed by the county administrator, Mr. Mike Fromer, pursuant to this, and Mr. McCarthy was diligent to put together a resolution that you have in your template if you would entertain this. We are at the lease date term, and right now we should enter into a lease if the board is okay with that number of staff or that reduction of staffing.
My understanding in the past, the whole point of this was them leasing the building, not how many they staffed
Agreed.
their ambulance with.
From the get-go, the township did define, I'm not saying it shouldn't change or can't change, I'm just saying, going all the way back to when it started, They did define what the minimum staffing would be, because it was a cooperative thing at that point. And the quid was the use of the building, the quo was just what was going to go in there. So that has been defined all the way through. Whether it's going to change or not, that's for you and the county to work on.
Okay, how much do they pay currently?
Let's see, let me see, it's in here, $8,640 and equal monthly installments of $720.
Are there any questions? Let's see, be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, approve and enter into a lease agreement with the Board of County Commissioners of Delaware County, Ohio, for use of a portion of the township's facilities located at 6226 3rd Street, Lewis Center, Ohio, by Delaware County Emergency Services. The lease agreement shall be in the form submitted to the board, presented to the board, and bearing the identifier of 0925 in its footer, the contents of which are incorporated by reference herein. Be it further resolved that all of the township trustees shall execute the lease agreement on behalf of the board.
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
And if I could pass this down for the board's signature, I can get this to Mr. Cromer. And make sure that, I'll make sure that everybody's copied on the executed agreement as well.
Do we just sign anywhere underneath?
Yes. That was a form that the county supplied, so I guess we're going to go with it. The township form had lines under it for signatures. I just wanted to point that out.
You generally prefer that, right?
Yeah. It's nice to have signature lines, I think.
Okay, next we have old business. The tabled item, discussion and possible action regarding the purchase for a Santa Christmas throne.
Yeah, before I got back with Mr. and Mrs. Ross, I want to share this with the board. This was proposed for the Santa chair. It's a 1930s antique mason throne. Mrs. Ross is the former clerk at the City of Powell. Her husband have played Mr. and Mrs. Clark in the past years for the City of Powell's holiday event. So this was a duplicate chair that the City of Powell will be using. This was the second one that they had. Both Mr. and Mrs. Ross are residents here at Orange Township. They want to help the township. She offered to refurbish the chair and sell it to us for $200 or we could borrow it. So I wanted to run it by the board before I gave her a call back and I gave her a final answer.
So this is what it looks like? So it is an old chair?
It's a 1930s antique mason throne. So it is a unique chair. I went and looked at it myself. I could try and help us out, but I think it's a pretty good offer.
How much is it?
They wanted $200 to add a cushion to the back, red seat and back cushions, and she would polish it up so it would be a nice official Santa chair.
I will say that's not the chair that Powell uses, and they're giving us their chair for free.
This is the one they're going to replace with the current one they have.
Okay, well, I spoke to the Parks Department, and that's not the chair that they're using. The
Right.
chair that we have, that was provided to us for free, is not that chair. Pictures were sent out to the board of what the Powell chair, what they have and what they use, and what they're using this year as well. It's free, and...
Are we keeping the chair?
No, we would borrow the chair and return it back to them.
Yeah, this is
They're-
the one they're going to replace the current chair they have with this.
So they're buying this chair now?
They have one in Holland, so after this year they're replacing it with a duplicate chair.
Okay, that's not the information I was in speaking to them, but, you know, I'm not sure. I'm speaking to the Parks and Rec Department who put on the event every year, Gina at the City of Powell. So Regardless, when I sent out the follow-up to the meeting, the team decided not to go with this chair just because it was $200 and we can use that money in other places. This was not only provided to the board, but we discussed it last week and nothing came up about the chair.
Well, the original chair was like $1,200.
Right, and so we were able to get a chair for free then.
But that chair looked really beat up.
Whose chair?
The chair from Powell.
It's very nice.
I found, really? I didn't think.
Yeah, the team decided not to go with this chair at all, just because of the cost factor. And we didn't really like the chair. The chair for Powell is a really nice cushy chair, especially if someone's got to sit in it for a couple hours, so.
When did you send that one up? I want to look it up again.
When I got it earlier, when all of the plans were initially happening.
It's like a turquoise color.
No.
It has like a gold.
It's black leather and it's got gold on it. This was sent out.
Yeah.
I'll have to email it out again, but.
So that's the one we got.
Yeah, so that was sent out to the board a while ago.
Did you send it out to directly to us?
I would have to, I can look back.
Can you come up and show us the picture real quick? Do you have it there?
Thank you, Amanda.
I can send it back out in an email.
I don't know if there's one. Is it just a short chair with gold on?
There's gold and it's got leather on it and it's padded.
If only Santa were here, he could decide. Yeah.
As far as seating, that's what she's including the cushion on the bottom.
Is it too high? What kind of, is it a comfortable cushion? Do we know?
It'll be a cushion on this. So,
I don't know.
it's what we looked at originally for price versus that option versus borrowing one. I think that's a good deal, it's just my opinion.
But then we can have it every year.
I can tell you that the team did not like the chair whatsoever. We didn't think it would be a good fit for the current decorations and.
How big was the team?
Who was the team?
The team was Mr. Bodnar, myself, Mrs. Kraft, Aaron James, and Mrs. Toronto. She was unable to attend, but we followed up with her afterwards. And I've already spoken to the city of Powell, let them know we're in the process of making arrangements for picking up the chair. Since this was not discussed during the special meeting last week, we went ahead and moved forward with securing the chair, and Aaron James will be picking it up. I'm just finalizing all those details.
Yeah, I think I'd like to go ahead with this chair though. I think this would be nice and we can have it every year and make it a tradition. We could probably add some embellishments to it as well.
So then don't forget, if you're adding, then you're adding to the cost of the chair then too.
I guess my thought is,
If you're adding to it, then you're gonna have to be adding to the cost over the $200.
Right, exactly.
my thought is for $200, that's going to be used for the years going forward. And as far as looking at comparables and other options, I think I just don't think you'll find a better deal.
Yeah, the original chair was $1,200 that we're asked to purchase though.
Well, the team definitely was trying to save us money since it was free versus $200, especially where we could use those funds other places.
And who is selling who's the person?
It's Mr. and Mrs. Ross.
So would we make the check to them? And when could they deliver it?
They live right by me, I can pick up and bring it to the township hall myself.
Okay,
No, there's no engravings that you're not concerned about, just looking down
so Mike, what did you say, make a motion to authorize the purchase?
I didn't say it.
So make a motion to authorize the purchase of.
I think, yeah, this
Santa
is well
chair.
under, if it's $200, well under any amounts. Did I understand earlier that the 200 included refurbishing, the polishing and whatnot? So I'd say with the polishing.
And the cushions or cushion?
Correct, that, is there an existing open PO that you could use for that, or do you need to have one?
Okay, so I make a motion to authorize the purchase of a chair to be used as a Santa throne. for the amount of $200, and that will include red cushions for the seat in the back and refurbishing, polishing of the chair and the repair of a panel in the back of the chair. It will be delivered by November 15th. And do we need a purchase order for that, Mike?
I leave that to Mr. Mayor.
Do we need to issue a purchase order for that?
I think it's probably a good idea.
Okay. And to authorize the purchase order for $200. I don't know what account.
I'll determine that.
Whatever.
And that would be to them.
Yeah, to Susie Ross, yeah, in the amount of $200 to Susie, who's the, should it just be Susie Ross? Susie Ross with, is it E or S? Okay, Susie Ross. Okay, and on the condition that a bill of sale be provided. And the payment will be to Susie Ross, S-U-S-I-E Ross. And so there is there a problem with the back of the chair, you said?
No, it's just redo the cushion.
Okay, all right. Is there a second?
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Trento?
Yes. Okay, next we have, Mr. Rivers, were you able to talk to the food truck person?
Yes, we do have, Yummy Kettle Corn is confirmed. We just need to tell him exactly what we want.
So what will they be providing?
He has a couple different options. He's done some other events and had a suggestion of having different bags we can give away. We have so many that we hand out along with hot cocoa. But it's up to us as far as the money that we want to buy is buy for the event.
So is there a proposal or fees or for the next meeting? So different options.
And I'll share it beforehand with the board.
So will he be selling other things, or does he just do kettle corn?
He does kettle corn, but he can package stuff specific to events.
Okay.
He'll give us a list of options and we can include our execute whatever we decide and what's based on our budget.
Okay, so we'll table that to the next meeting, a discussion of the finalizing the holiday food discussion.
Okay, that'll be added to the next one, because it actually isn't an item.
Oh, yeah, just add it to the next one.
Okay.
Do we have any idea of how much, the cost for that event yet? No.
More than 200.
Yeah, definitely gonna be. And now it sounds like we're gonna be charging for food, so whatever that looks like.
Well, that was a discussion at the last meeting when Trustee Rivers brought up the food truck with kettle corn. That was always, we discussed that at the last meeting. That was always in the plan. Well, since last
Actually, that
meeting.
wasn't in the plan, that was new since last meeting.
Well, it was in the plan at the last meeting. It was discussed. Let's see. Next, we have well, why don't we just go ahead and jump to new business, and then we'll take care of these personnel issues after the executive session. Under new business, we have discussion and possible action regarding junk vehicles. And I discussed this with Mr. McCarthy regarding, we've had several situations in the township where there are vehicles on the public roadway. We have had problems with junk vehicles in the private areas, and we've been able to handle that with zoning. But we've had many problems with junk vehicles on public property, and we've contacted the sheriff's office, and they say they can't tow them as long as they have current tags. So I was reviewing with Mike some various opportunities for us to be able to take care of junk vehicles that are on public roadways. Mr. McCarthy, were you able to look into that at all?
I would have to tell you that with the press and business at the last half of last week,
We can table it.
generally speaking, you're going to have a number of decisions. At one point, the township, which was, I thought at the time, very advanced, created its own non-criminal civil non-criminal parking infractions and applied to the municipal court and granted permission to establish a traffic, parking violations board. And that petered out over the years. You may remember or heard of some of the excitement over the tickets, and we had some issues with some deputies not particularly accounting well. I don't know, that doesn't exist, and that's going to be one consideration going into this. Secondly, section 50517 does, the revised code indicates you can regulate parking, vehicle parking in the township. In the past, a couple of boards have brought up the idea of prohibiting, which some municipal corporations do. You'll see signs now and then limiting the hours during which parking can occur. You have to put up signage there before you could be punished for it. The method I've seen, I don't know if I particularly recommend it, is that you establish that no vehicle should be remaining in one place for longer than 24 hours. If they do then, however, the idea would be they'd be ticketed, and they could be ticketed. I'll double check the statutes, but last I knew, they could be towed. The situation there is then you've got to decide where we're going to take it and who's going to tow it. So it's not necessarily just a simple, well, let's go get a chain and take care of this problem. But yeah, I'd be happy to look at it.
Yeah, because I found some.
Next meeting.
Yeah, I know, I looked and several other townships have provisions, including like Springfield Township Resolution. And there's several different, but they reference 505.871. They say that the revised code 505.871 gives Ohio townships the authority to remove any vehicles that the township determines to be a junk motor vehicle in order to ensure the health, safety, and welfare of the residents.
That would be a different approach. I think, Michelle, you're working with the prosecutor on some of those, aren't you? Or you have in the past?
We've had several complaints,
Yeah.
and it's.
And I think you've worked them through to this point.
In the sheriff's office, it's just, we don't have a criteria that outlines its determination
Yeah,
of a junk vehicle.
You guys can't do anything yet, yeah. And actually.
That would be another group to look at.
Yeah, well, I spoke with them, I spoke with Jeff, maybe Michelle, but I spoke with Jeff, and he said there was nothing they could do about it, and the sheriff came out. But currently, in Green Meadows, High Meadows Village, there's a car with flat tires, missing the front bumper, covered with rust. It's very, it's been there for months. We've had multiple complaints, and then there's another vehicle. I think that they both have their tags expired, but the homeowners actually parked on several streets away from where they actually live, and they're just sitting on the corner for everyone else to have to deal with. So there are definitions in here there's actually definitions in the Ohio Revised Code of junk vehicles, including if they're 3 years or older, they have any buildup of trash that obstructs the use, has flat or missing tires, missing bumpers, missing license plates. So it actually, I don't think we'd have to establish like any kind of bureau or write tickets, but in Springfield, it says once a violation is reported to the township, removal of the junk vehicle occurs after a legally required notification process has occurred and after we determine it's a junk vehicle. It can be towed, and if it's not claimed within a certain amount of time, it can be sold at auction.
So what if there's a case that we can't determine who the owner is of said vehicle? How do we notify?
You'd have to get the VIN, which should be visible through the dashboard, and run that probably through the sheriff's office or possibly the BMV, I suppose. That will give you the title holder.
Okay, and I'm fine, I would like to get these vehicles removed. I've worked with the sheriff's office before, it hasn't been easy.
Are these on the public roadway?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
And let me bring this up, in another life in another township. The trustees oversee, as they do here, control and authority over the roadway. So parking, regardless of the condition of the vehicle, is up to the Board of Trustees. A roadway is not an extension of one's driveway and should not be used as an alternative to parking there on a consecutive basis. So I might suggest that you encompass that or look at that in this as well, so that you cover everything. If you're going to look at a portion of junk vehicles, you might as well look at parking on the roadway as well.
Yeah, that would be a
Yeah,
portion
yeah.
of the 50517.
Yeah, because I know parking is permitted in High Meadows.
It is permitted, but
What's
for
that?
how long? What does that mean?
Yeah,
And
we
that's
can-
something
we
you
can
can
Well, that's the
define.
capping
Yeah,
right there.
in
But
the
the thing is, you need to
505
have the underpinnings for the towing.
Because we
Yeah.
control, and I think that, I don't even know if it would have to do with the sheriff's office, this towing thing. we would actually take care of it ourselves. I don't know if it would involve the sheriff. It would be township.
And that's in
Might
my
not
other
be
life.
zoning, it might be an administration thing, so it wouldn't, maybe you wouldn't have to deal with it.
I'd like to have some type of
Yeah, if you would write
results from this. I mean, when people
Yeah.
complain, I'd like to be able to.
Especially when it's, I mean, it's one thing if it's just an older student car, but it's another thing if there's flat tires, missing bumpers, missing license plates. I mean, that just degrades. You know, if it's a personal, someone's having a problem for a week or two, but this has gone on for months. We've had semis parked with flat tires. We've had so many complaints over the years. I thought all these years there's nothing we could do about it until I did all this research and found out we actually have a lot of control that might involve some regulations. I mean, there's a lot of different things, and we wouldn't necessarily need to have an impound lot. There's different definitions in here, notification procedures, photographing. There's a lot of different options that we have here, some involving the sheriff's office, some not. So I would like a consensus to look into this with Mr. McCarthy to maybe craft some draft regulations.
We will.
And we can work with Michelle also.
Yes.
Great. And was there another item added under?
Yes.
Oh, a revitalization, is that the one? So next we have the discussion and possible action regarding establishment of fee for revitalization district application. Mr. McCarthy?
Yes, a while back, you may remember Mr. Steve Cutler appeared on behalf of Evans Farm to introduce to the board.
It was June 18th.
Oh, thank you.
During the executive
June
session.
18th, executive session, the concept of establishing a revitalization district, which I believe Mr. Bodnar at the time pointed out allowed for the possible issuance of multiple D5 permits, those for restaurants. The idea being this would be something you do in an area that you would make an entertainment district out of. That was brought forward. Mr. Cutler also suggested the township might want to consider establishing a fee. Spoke with him recently. I understand it's his intention, impending intention to file an application for such a district. I would remind the board there is but one district permitted in the township with the current population. So this will be a significant decision on the part of the board. It needs to be the entirety of the township. But either way, it is impending, and I suspect this may be the last opportunity the board has to recoup what will be an investment. You're going to want to review this thing top to bottom, as much as you would a zoning application. Make sure it comports with the statute, make sure that the factual basis, the parcel's ownership, et cetera, are correctly reflected and all that sort of good stuff. And toward that end, a resolution was drafted in blank. Michelle reached out to a Bennington Township and Berkshire Township, and at this point has received no response back. I guess my gut reaction, and we started out having one discussion, and Lee certainly participated, as has Michelle. I guess at this point, I'm thinking if we look at this, and my suggestion only, if we look at this in the context of a minor zoning amendment, which I suspect probably will be somewhat of an apples-to-apples thing, that's about a $3,000 fee, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's also premised on the idea that there'll be 2 hearings, correct?
3 hearings.
3 hearings,
Mm-hmm.
okay. I'm thinking if we take half of that 1,500, hopefully that would cover us.
Okay.
If we lose, I don't think we're going to lose too much. And down the road, Lee brought this up before the meeting. Down the road, there is potential for the amendment of the district, consideration of an expansion. And again, that application in essence would be the same as a new application because you're going to have the application, does it meet the law, is the property correct, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think maybe at this point in time anyway, one fee would probably be an across the board thing. In the end, it lies in the discretion of the board as to what fee it'll be. The statute just plainly says in such fee as is established by the board. So I would think that should, you know, as with the aspiration zoning, keep paying the fee with the entity that's, you know, engendering the situation, rather than having it subsidized out of the tax revenue.
So you're suggesting 1,500?
It seems to me that's probably a reasonable shot in the dark.
Mm-hmm. So this will involve like the typical hearings? This is.
Yeah, we would be sending out a legal notice.
There's a required mandatory legal notice, there's going to be legal review, there's going to be a lot of, I suspect there's going to be a lot of staff review. Each parcel is going to have to be dealt with. You know, again, we'll find out, and maybe if we find out it doesn't quite fill the bill, then we'll have to regroup and consider an adjustment.
And once this is submitted, we'll have our GIS staff put a map together of all the parcels, so give you a visual understanding of the district.
So it'd be $1,500 per parcel?
No,
Just the
per
application.
application.
Okay. So does that cover, so what's the process then? It goes to who, just you?
It's
is
filed
something
with
new
the
to me,
town.
so I
This is
apologize.
filed with, well, we haven't been through one. We wouldn't be talking if we already had one. Unless it's an amendment.
Right.
It's filed with the township. The township has to issue a public notice of the filing of the application, also a hearing date. The board is then going to conduct the hearing and in the end determine whether or not this district should be approved.
The board, so the board conducts the.
All roads lead to the
Okay.
board.
So it would come in to Michelle's office?
It would come possibly
Yeah.
township administrator Michelle's office, I think, whoever gets it.
They pay the fee and then.
And then within 30 days, we have to notify the trustees, it looks like, and by notice published once a week for 2 consecutive weeks in one newspaper. So there are some statutes we have to follow.
And then we have a public hearing, you notify the property owners, is it contiguous property owners?
I
Without-
don't believe the word contiguous is in the statute.
Do we have to add this to the?
Although I do believe all parcels,
Is there a process for this already in the Ohio Revised Code?
yes, it's 430181, I believe, Michelle, is that correct? You can read it.
Well, you know how in the zoning resolution, there's a process in Ohio Revised Code, but we have our own.
This
that
process, as I recall, is not that well defined. You're going to have
That's
a
what it
hearing,
sounds
you're
like.
going to put out notice, you're going to make a decision. And down the road, you can amend it, but it doesn't go into the same depth as 519 12.
Do we know what other areas charge?
That's why
we
she
try
was
to
reaching
It's not
out.
that bad, okay. But this has to be done immediately for some
Well,
reason.
or you, once an application is filed, if you don't have a fee established, I think you'll have a difficult time arguing
So they're
later
gonna
on.
be filing for this
So
soon.
that's- suspect.
So can we get more information on, so we don't need to add this to the,
I would
zoning
suggest if you
resolution
don't
or-
act at this meeting, you don't need to worry about acting, at least as to the application
but
topic.
do we need to add this to the zoning resolution or add the
No, this
process or
is a
solve?
standalone thing. This
Okay.
isn't 43, that's alcohol, that's liquor.
Okay, so we just need to pass
It's not
this
a-
and
Yeah,
then.
it's not a
figure out the
519, it's
procedure.
43. Booze.
Would there be information as to what criteria we're supposed to
Yes,
discuss?
I'll be happy to put something together for you. Yeah, this is the first time for
Yeah, I've
all,
never
so we'll
actually
get
heard
to
of
it.
this until today. Okay, are there any more questions?
That sounds about right to me.
Spot.
And we can adjust the
We'll
fee if
find
it determines that it's not actually covering our costs later if we need to.
Yeah, we'll have to revisit it, it won't help us as to the first one, but, you know, this may well grow, we'll see.
Yeah, and it's better to have something right now than.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Otherwise, you'll be eating the cost.
And Michelle, you think 1,500 is?
I agree with this one.
Yeah, okay. I move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas section 4301.81 of the Ohio Revised Code provides that a single revitalization district may be established within the unincorporated area of the township, and whereas such section further provides any owner of property located in the unincorporated area may file an application seeking such designation with the Board of Township Trustees in accordance with its requirements, and whereas section 4301.81B6 provides that a handling and processing fee payable to the township in an amount determined by the Board of Township Trustees may be established to accompany such application, and whereas such an application will require expenditures for publication of a notice of the filing of the application and the public hearing date for the same, review of the application by staff and legal counsel, and conduct of the hearing itself, be it resolved that a fee shall be charged and required to be paid to the township at the time of the filing of an application for the establishment of a revitalization district, such fee being in the amount of $1,500.
Second.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. The following are invited to attend: Mr. McCarthy, Mr. Bodnar, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Shedron. Is that everybody? What?
Well, we're automatically invited.
Yeah, we're in. Is there a second?
Second. Roll call. Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Rivers? Yes. Ms. Franco?
Yes.
Trustees, if I can excuse myself.
Yeah,
I was in the meeting.
Thank you. That's why I moved that one. You could be back here
Appreciate
for
it.
30 minutes. Other check, oh, we can sign.
Yeah,
One thing.
I think,
Okay, in the checks, were the checks to sign?
I'm pretty sure there are.
Oh, there are.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm sure. She's putting them in there before I sign it.
Thank you for passing this down, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, make a motion to return to regular session?
Second. Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers? Yes. Ms. Franco?
Yes. See, we're going to, oh yeah, Mr. Bodnar, you wanted to talk about the,
Certainly.
under old business?
Certainly. Very quickly, this is a snapshot of the current employee health care benefits. If you look to the right is the current list of benefits that the township employees receive. The next column, to the left, the next column to the right, which says no wellness, it's not applicable. That's what we currently have paid for employees. The right to that is wellness completed. This is the renewal. So we have the current costs, you see the current costs, and then the renewal costs, which denote 109 or 109.77%. We obviously saw that as being a red flag, and we're looking at going from a self-insured environment to a fully insured environment. We came from a consortium coming into this year, 2018, where everything was basically masked, and we could not know or weren't open to or privy to information. And so basically we would be handed a renewal form and we would be subject to that. This year is a little bit different, so we engaged in something new, and we were looking at it to be, the possibility of it being advantageous was enticing, and the highest amount of exposure was not as much as you would think it was. So we were in a good position to take what we currently have, but going into the next year of 2019, as you can see, the costs are greatly increased. And if you look at the individual rates, you can see what the premium dollars, what they look like. If you looked at the next column with United Healthcare, that is the first course that we sought for a new package. We had two of the main players, our current main player, Aetna and MMO, would not quote. And they would not quote when they looked at the numbers that we have, and they basically said, we won't quote you because you won't come to us. We won't take you, you won't take us, because it's going to be too costly. Part of the challenge here is we have an aged population or an aged pool of employees, which is a good thing because you keep employees for a long period of time. And that's a good sign of happiness and well-being and people that want to stay employed with the township. The downside of that is where it hits you is in the healthcare. And as we all know, healthcare is the most, I think, hottest topic in our country today, and has been for quite a few years. So United Healthcare quoted for the same product that we currently have, If you remember, the difference you see in the deductibles, 1,000, 2,000 versus what we currently have, which is 7 and 14, as it was a self-insured model, we downpaid that deductible and paid it down to that. And if you completed the wellness program, you could actually not pay any deductible. So we looked at what that United could provide us with our current model, and you're looking at 49.78%. And so then we looked at what could we do with doing a higher deductible. And if you look at United Healthcare, the second to the last column to the right is 1,000, 2,000. Those are the deductibles, individual and family. Then we looked at United Healthcare, 5,000, 10,000. And we looked at what is the difference between savings by going with a higher deductible, the reduction to premium, what does that equate to? Well, if you go down to the bottom, you're looking at 18.99%. Now that sounds, a 20% increase is sizable, but I will tell you that if you look down, that would be without paying any deductible. There would be zero deductible. The cost of office visits would stay the same at $30, and that would be the copay. The specialist visit goes from $30 to $75. In our current plan, even when you hit the deductible, you're still responsible for 80% of the bill. Under this program with UH, and it says difference card, and I can tell you a little bit about that, it's 100% covered after deductible. So by going to a higher deductible plan, where the difference in savings is enough to change or massage the amounts, I guess. I don't like the word massage, that sounds kind of scary, but to yield amounts that are very similar to what we have now, and also reduce the deductible to zero. If you look at the current amount and you look at the rates, you can see the current amount versus the increase in the premium dollars. Now, if you're an employee, you're going to look at that and you're going to say, well, I have skin in the game because I pay 15% of my premium costs. And you guys, it's going up. And the way it's a trade-off because there's no deductible. But it is a 20% increase. Now, what does this do for 2020? Because we're looking at 2019. It opens the doors because we live in a land of not will it go up, but how much will it go up each year? That's what we've played every year for the last, 10 years. We will then add in deductibles. We can then keep the same plan, but massage there I go using massage. We can then reestablish the deductible amounts. So, and at a rate that we can dictate that is advantageous to savings. So it is a full coverage package, fully insured package or model. You would get a card, that's your insurance card. You would go, and the difference card is another card that you have to carry, and it pays the difference. So you go to the doctor, and you have to pay your copay at $30. They're going to say, wait, your out of pocket, your copay is actually $50. And you're going to say, well, here's the difference card to make up the difference. And that's all programmed in, cannot be used for other things. It's like a credit card, but it cannot be used for pizza or sandwiches or a TV. And it already is smart because all these things are programmed in it. So it knows that, oh, you're going for a copay. It will only give you $20 to use for that because you're responsible for the $30 remaining. I know that's a lot of information to throw at you. Chew on it. We'll be looking at talking about this at the next meeting. The Healthcare Committee has met twice. We met on October 23rd and October 30th, and they are fully supportive of the model to the right. And if you remember, the Healthcare Committee is made up of representatives from the fire union, the fire department, the admin department, the service department, the parks department, and the maintenance department. So it covers the gambit of employee parcels or departments. And so they are attuned to it, and this is what they are recommending. I do have another meeting with them scheduled for the 13th of November to come back with any concerns that the board has or wishes to share, and also to give them time to provide other information or concerns that they have. I will tell you that the United Healthcare model they're the largest in the industry. Their services or to find somebody outside of their coverage is a stretch because they cover everybody.
So they will be in a bigger pool now, much bigger. I never thought it was a good idea to go with the smaller pool.
Well, I mean, to tell you the truth, we were looking at the opportunity of saving more money with going self-funded or self-insured, and the maximum exposure was less, if you remember, than any of the other products we could get. So cost-wise, it was good. The reality of the situation is we have a heavily utilized group.
Because we have so many employees that have been here for
Which
so many
is good,
years.
though. You want them to use their insurance too, you know? I mean,
Is the wellness program help?
That's a hard question to answer because for some people it has, for some people it hasn't. For some, that was a carrot to get them to utilize the wellness program to be able to buy down or pay down their deductible, and they did it for that. But the majority didn't really.
Really?
Yeah, which is surprising. You would think.
Well, it's complicated, the wellness program is very
Well,
complicated.
it's hard to believe that somebody doesn't go when they have insurance coverage that's at 100% for an annual fiscal. But a lot of people don't go for their annual visits just because they don't want to. I mean, it's reality.
So we can.
We can talk about this.
In 2 weeks? Okay.
Absolutely, this would be discussed at the last meeting. There's another page attached to the diagram that I've given you, and that's from Mr. McCarthy, that lists all the things that are required for a resolution in this regard. He and I have had a discussion on that, and I want to make sure that you knew that we had discussion on it. And then we would hold employee meetings like we had in the past. There'd be, at least 3 of them to hit all the shifts and be able to share that information. But I will tell you, since the board initiated the Employees Health Care and Wellness Committee, you have people that are now smarter when it comes to health care insurance than they've ever been in their careers.
That's true, they have much.
And that's coming from
much
that,
more
I'm not
knowledge,
just
yeah.
saying that, that's
Well, they probably
from them.
understand more how their health choices affect everybody.
They do.
So we'll just table or put that on the next meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair, appreciate that. And that concludes all I have on the agenda. Now I should get him a friend.
Just be careful.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna go to page 5, I think.
Further discussion action, possible action regarding Director of Operations position.
Okay.
Do we need to do a resolution to authorize anybody to do anything?
We don't have to.
Okay.
Not at this point.
I think there's been discussion, and individual can go forward, have discussion, bring it back. I don't think there's any binding authority intended to be granted, so.
Okay, and then we have, let's see, discussion and possible action regarding adjusting the position description for the employment position of Assistant Fiscal Officer. So we examined the Assistant Fiscal Officer position that was presented to the board. There were a couple of changes that were discussed. And
Exactly.
does anyone have any questions? Do you have any questions, Trustee Powell? I move the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas the board, having previously adopted a position description for the at-will, non-exempt, full-time, non-bargaining unit employment position of Assistant Fiscal Officer, has been presented a description modifying this employment, and whereas it is deemed advisable to approve such modification of position description, now therefore be resolved that upon ratification by the Township Fiscal Officer, the Assistant Fiscal Officer position description presented to the board and dated 10/15/18 is hereby approved and accepted, and an employee in such position shall henceforth serve under the terms and provisions stated therein. Two, the aforementioned position description is presented for informational purposes only and can be changed at any time by the township fiscal officer with or without notice. Three, neither the aforementioned position description nor this resolution are an employment contract express or implied, and an employee in such a position is an employee at will, and neither the employee or the township fiscal officer can terminate the employment relationship at any time for any reason or no reason, and no representative of Orange Township has the authority to enter into an agreement with an employee that is contrary to the foregoing. Four, unless otherwise provided, wait, are we gonna waive, should we waive the?
I would leave that to the discretion of the board.
I don't, normally we require
I think
background,
the
is she already bonded, Wes?
Yep, she's bonded.
Okay, so I don't think, yes, and, well, I would, just a minute, because we're actually approving, Mike, this is, I think I should read that, waive it in this case if we want to, because isn't this resolution? Is this number 4 is a standard resolution that is used for this purpose for all employees in the future? So we should just waive it for this employee?
Yes, I would suggest that, because right now your description, I believe, has that, yeah, it's supposed to happen unless otherwise provided by the board. I would just say something along the lines, in view of the longstanding employment of this employee, the usual requirements of background investigation, drug screening, physical exam, and Pradco are waived.
But is that's already in the job description for future? If someone else came to that position, does it say that they need to do?
Let me see the description.
Most satisfactory. Yeah, it is in there.
Yeah, all employees, yeah.
Usually it's in there, but every
Yeah,
now and then.
I see it, it's under requirements and qualifications. Background, drug, physical exam, and prior code. Okay, so that's just applicable to
Yeah,
this
just change
situation.
forward to the
Okay.
statement of an exception with the reasons so that next time you don't find yourselves arguing about it.
Okay, in this case, due to the, wait a minute, wait, Mike, I should read this as is, and then in the position to appoint her in the actual, because we haven't, we
Well,
don't
the
know.
position description, yeah, the position description is fine, right?
Yeah, but I'm saying we don't know who we're appointing yet, so how can I waive this? So okay, I'm good.
No, no,
Lisa
I
says
think
I'm
you're
good.
correct, Lisa, I'm
Okay,
sorry.
all right, unless otherwise provided by the board and township fiscal officer, all appointments to this position shall be contingent upon the applicant's satisfactory completion of a background investigation, drug screen, physical exam, and character assessment. Those portions of prior resolutions of the board inconsistent with this resolution are hereby repealed and of no further force or effect.
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Okay, then I will include that disclaimer in this resolution. And Mr. Fiscal Officer Mayor has recommended Ms. Patricia Lewis for this position. Is that correct?
Yes.
I move the adoption of the following resolution. Be it resolved that the compensation for Patricia Lewis in the at-will, non-exempt, full-time, non-bargaining unit position of Assistant Fiscal Officer is approved to be at the rate of $28 per hour, with paychecks to be issued based on a 14-day pay period. Be it further resolved that the compensation for Patricia Lewis in said position is further approved to also include the standard employee benefits package for all full-time, non-union personnel, augmented as follows. 1, the appointee may begin service. Now, why does it say may instead of shall?
Well, that gives Mr. Mayor the discretion to go up to that point without having to go to that point.
Okay,
And this will be his appointment.
so he will be able to, is he the one
He'll
that's?
decide how much of that he wants to give away.
Okay,
I suspect it's all of it, but.
okay. The appointee may begin service with 211.65 hours of vacation leave. The appointee may begin service with 65.90 hours of sick leave. The appointee may begin service with 37.88 hours of compensatory hours. The appointee may begin service with a 32 holiday hours. The appointment may begin service with the acceptance of 9 prior years of service time for purposes of the determination of vacation time. The appointee may begin service with the acceptance of 9 years of prior service time for purposes of the determination of longevity pay. And I'm going to add in number 7 that
How about the appointee may, this appointment may be made with waiver of the satisfactory completion, something like that.
Okay, so this appointment may be made with the waiver of the normal requirement that this position shall be contingent upon the applicant's satisfactory completion of the background investigation, drug screen, physical exam, and crowd code assessment. So the fiscal officer can make that determination. Does that make sense, Wes?
Yes.
Okay.
Second?
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Mr. Anto?
No. All right, is there any further business? Not hearing, no meetings adjourned.
Okay.